did we lose track of things? As some religious scriptures point to, if we have really fallen, where have we fallen from? What is the nature of this fall? The fall is a very common religious theme in many different traditions. It is the central theme of one of the oldest, most remembered, repeated stories. The story of Adam and Eve. It is said that Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge and they were banished from the Garden of Eden. It is certain that this is not a literal story. Firstly, because it's a Jewish story. Jews had a way of remembering things, deep spiritual concepts, deep mystical concepts, passed down from thousands of years. They had a way of remembering them through stories, through allegories. It is very clear that the story of Adam and Eve is not the story of first man and woman. It is the story of birth of man in a very different way, in a spiritual way. The story is deeply meaningful, but it has to be understood, it has to be interpreted. What is Garden of Eden? It is the ultimate truth. Consciousness itself, aliveness itself, the undivided core of existence. Existence simply existing, the most tranquil state, perfect state, no disturbance, no hunger, no desire for sex, no hatred, no jealousy, no birth, no death. It has to be the Garden of Eden, the most perfect place. What happens when a consciousness, in search of itself, stumbles? In that stumbling, it tastes the fruit of knowledge. It is not sex that is the original sin. It is knowledge. Knowledge is positive only when it is used to understand something that has already been misunderstood. Knowledge is a great clarifier. Knowledge clears out the path. But something should have happened before that. Something should have fallen. Something should have blocked the path. Otherwise, there is no necessity for knowledge. In that tranquil state of aliveness with no disturbance, knowledge is a fall. There is no need for knowledge to ascend you any higher. What does knowledge do when you are already in a perfect state? It clouds your judgment. It makes you cling to it. And what is knowledge if not for the human mind itself? Human mind is filled with all kinds of information. information that it holds on with great attachment, that it identifies as knowledge. What is it that is blocking one's path to enlightenment if not for this knowledge? Hence, knowledge is the original sin. Only because you are fallen, you cannot regain your original state. You cannot wake up from this slumber of sleep. Without knowledge, you value knowledge. But otherwise, getting attached to knowledge is the first error, is the first fall. That is the story of Adam and Eve. It is because they ate from the tree of knowledge, they were banished from the Garden of Eden. It's an allegorical way of saying, if you get entangled in the world of thoughts and ideas, and you start weaving your web using the accumulated knowledge from outside, you will trap yourself in a world that is different and disconnected from the paradise. You create your own hell. Everything begins from there. It is the birth of man. When an individual identifies himself with something other than the ultimate truth, he is born. That is why birth, the original sin, fall from a higher place, being banished, being punished for eating from the tree of knowledge, are all so close together in their relationship. But if you do not interpret this as a spiritual allegory, a simple story of the mind and the self, the disconnection of the mind from the self and its longing to come back to the self, if you don't see it as such a simple existential story, you turn it into something else altogether. You start weaving more and more stories to interpret that story. You fall further. You turn simple spiritual ideas into dogmatic beliefs just because you don't have access to the symbolic interpretation of language, which can only come from a realized teacher. Otherwise, interpretation will always lead to more interpretations and confuse the central theme of the story. There are innumerable such stories that we have altogether misinterpreted. Human history, especially our religious history, is filled with deep, meaningful spiritual stories. But we have turned all of them into dogmatic religious beliefs because we cut ourselves from the main tradition of learning from a teacher. The preacher became the teacher. According to me, that is a bigger fall than the fall of Adam. Adam fell once, but we have fallen again and again and again to the same trap laid by the priest, who has pretended to be a teacher, who has pretended to be a knower. It's because we were cut off from living teachers. Living teachers were hunted. They were identified and exterminated. Within the Christian tradition itself, there were innumerable small mystical sects where there were living teachers interpreting the words of Jesus. If there is a living teacher, you can be sure that they will be interpreting Jesus' words, because one living teacher can recognize another living teacher. In the spiritual realm, teachers don't die, just the body comes and goes. The spirit that has given rise to the body, that has given rise to those teachings, is always recognized as something living. For an enlightened teacher, both Jesus and Buddha are alive in him. He does not even see them as two individuals belonging to two different religions, teaching two very different things, with unique life stories. These things are not important for them. What is important is they can identify something that is happening inside them in those words. When they read Buddha's words, when they interpret Jesus' words, they can get in touch, they can connect with that living stream that has flowed through them. Jesus is but one tree that has been nourished by the ever-flowing spiritual stream. Buddha is but one tree. You can chop the tree, but you cannot do anything to the river. You don't even know the existence of that river. You don't even know where Jesus' strength came from. You simply saw his form, his actions. You did not like it, and you got rid of him. And because you realized you made a mistake, you glorified him and turned him into the Son of God. One thing you have missed in this entire interpretation of his story is that living stream. If you had gone in search of that living stream, you would have understood Jesus. Not only Jesus, you would have understood all those people who came after him, who were trying to hold on to his message, who were trying to hold on to his teachings. But what did Christianity do? It decided to hold on to one idea of Jesus, one interpretation of his story. A story that is emotional, that is authoritative, that is useful in ruling over people. Naturally, it had to eliminate all those individual groups and sects that were trying to interpret Jesus' words in a way that it was keeping it alive. Aliveness was a big problem for the church. Church wanted his teachings to be in a dormant state so that it can interpret it however it wants to. If there is a living tradition, there is a problem. Now, how can a priest assume the authority when there is a living teacher? The living teacher would laugh at him. He would look at a priest and say, "What is this joke? What transformation have you undergone? What has happened on the inside that has changed you? All I see is your clothes and hair is changed. But your spirit is exactly the same. Your mind is exactly the same. You've not gone beyond anger. You've not gone beyond jealousy. You've not gone beyond your lust for life." How can you interpret Jesus' words? And when you interpret Jesus' words from that state of mind, you will only be misinterpreting them. And that's exactly what you've done. You've turned all his spiritual allegorical parables into dogmatic beliefs. Priest cannot exist when there are living teachers. And slowly, systematically, Christianity went on a crusade, identifying and eliminating every living branch of Christianity. How did it do it? By simply saying, anybody who does not believe in this interpretation, in the biblical interpretation of Jesus, anybody who does not accept him as the Son of God is going against the church, hence going against the kingdom. So you are enemies of the church. Now, what do we do with the enemies? We just eliminate them. All these small mystical sects where individuals were actually trying to interpret the story of Jesus, they were actually trying to understand the Jewish storytelling tradition, of which Jesus was a part of, they were completely wiped out. And now, when you think about Jesus, when you think about his teachings, his message, nothing comes to mind other than heaven and hell, being saved by the Son of God, and the whole story of crucifixion and resurrection, which is the least important story of Jesus. His crucifixion is just a happening. The most important thing is what he did while he was alive. How did he ascend to that heights of understanding? It's like remembering and worshipping Buddha for how he died. It is said that he died of food poisoning. Now just imagine you start worshipping the whole idea of food poisoning. Every year you get together and you eat some food that makes you sick so that you can remember Buddha. That's exactly what Christianity is doing. It does not sound odd because it is so common. The way of connecting with Jesus is through his death. Now imagine if you were to connect to Buddha through his death. There would be no monasteries, there would be no learning tradition, there would be no teacher-student relationship. And that's exactly where Christianity is now. The student-teacher relationship is gone, which is the bloodline of spirituality. People are afraid of going to teachers because the preachers have taken great advantage of this love and reverence students have for teachers. The authority that a teacher possesses comes from experience, but a preacher's authority comes from the church. He is appointed, he is recognized by an institution, by an organization. His authority is false. Hence, those who can see this is just a game. They'll be scared of going to any teacher. Anything that resembles this, there is someone sitting and teaching, there is someone wanting you to understand something deeper, scares you. Because there is a long history of how you've been taken advantage of, how you've been made a fool. And you don't want to be a fool again, you resist that. But there is no other way to get to that heights of understanding other than finding a living teacher and a living tradition. Somewhere the distinction has to be made between religion and spiritual. Anyways, it's not only in spirituality. You cannot think of a single field where the amount of effort and skill that is required to ascend to the heights of perfection, individuals have reached there without the help of a teacher. Think about athletics. Name one athletic star who has become what you admire in him without a teacher, without a guide. It is not that individuals don't possess something inside them to get there. It's not that there is no strength. It's not that they are not intelligent. Taking guidance from a teacher is not a weakness. It is a sign of intelligence. It is to say, I know something, but why not take assistance from someone who has already walked the path so that I can save so much time in doing my own trial and errors? Sometimes just one untying of the knot, one right knot untied at the right time can save you months, can save you years. And that is what athletes look for, even Da Vinci for that matter. As independent as Da Vinci was, as individualistic as he studied under other masters. He studied under Verrocchio. Because there is something you learn from a teacher. Yes, you are independent, you have your own way of looking at things, but a teacher will teach you the basics. Most importantly, he'll guide you through the mistakes that he made. What is it that we are missing in the modern world? We are missing this beautiful student-teacher relationship. Religion has destroyed this relationship by pretending to be the authority. There is one straight path that takes you to truth, one straight path that takes you to realization. There are innumerable ways of going in circles. The reason why it's so easy to take a misstep and deviate from the true path is because of the obviousness of what you're searching for. If what you're searching were to be somewhere on the outside, were to be something you can see and recognize with your senses, then there's not much confusion. You can see it, it's over there. Yeah, it's very far away, but still, it's worth going there. You will make your plans and you will move towards it. The problem in the internal realm is it's hard to recognize the difference between the one who's wanting to realize, one who's wanting to wake up, and the one who does not want to wake up. Within us, there are two individuals, two different dimensions. There's one part of us that is constantly wanting us to move towards truth. It can see that the world is an illusion. It can see that form is an illusion. It is that part of us that keeps reminding us to come back to the present moment. On the other hand, there is another part of us that loves sleep, that loves getting entangled in all kinds of ideas, that loves to glorify ideas and become subservient to those ideas. It does not want to take those ideas and turn them into teachings, turn them into ways, turn them into methods. This internal confusion is what gives the keys to the priest and the religions to manipulate. There is no other way but to turn inward and see this process of dreaming, which is contributing to this confusion firsthand. The secret, in fact, is not even in the teachings. It's not even in the teacher. Yes, teachings are necessary. A teacher is necessary. But the real secret is in your ability to watch your dream, to see that life is a dream. If there is a dream, who is the dreamer? That direct relationship that you have with your dream, when you continuously watch your dream, a moment will come when something will just ignite. I've been watching this I've been watching so many different thoughts come and go, so many different experiences come and go, but there is something that is not changing. There is something non moving. There is something that is not diminishing. The more I use it, the more available it is to me. Who is this dreamer? Now, that is the starting point. But this cannot happen on the outside, it can only happen on the inside. There is a beautiful Taoist story. It is said that Chuang Tzu, the Taoist master, once had a dream. In the dream, he was a butterfly. He was fully a butterfly. He was floating around, exploring different things, looking down at things. He was a butterfly that is just exploring life. And then he's jolted out of his sleep. He wakes up and then he looks at his body and sees he is a human being in exactly the same way he was a butterfly. Now he is a human being. His body is different. His thoughts are different. His actions are different. But the feeling is the same. And after waking up, he asks a question. Am I Chuang Tzu or am I that butterfly? Did Chuang Tzu dream about the butterfly or is the butterfly dreaming about Chuang Tzu? It is a very important question. Because when you were a butterfly, you actually were a butterfly. You were not thinking about having a different form. You were fully identified with that form. You moved like a butterfly, you thought like a butterfly, you acted like a butterfly, which is what you're doing now as a human being. What if it is that butterfly that is dreaming about you? What if this is a dream and that is your reality? You cannot solve this. The only way to solve this is to experientially dive into the depths of the dreaming process and see who is this dreamer. There is a dreamer who is neither the butterfly nor Chuang Tzu. There is a dreamer who is neither a human being nor an insect. The dreamer is formless. He's shapeless. His essence is altogether different from physicality. Now, that is what you're trying to connect to. But as long as you're entangled in a dream, world of knowledge, world of ideas, you keep moving in circles. And one idea gives rise to 10 other ideas. At the end of your life, you become more knowledgeable. You have lots of information in your mind. Where is an experiential understanding that you can hold on to, that you can rely on? Till you get to this experiential knowledge of life, you are always susceptible to be fooled by someone. And as long as you can be fooled, somebody will try and fool you. World is still a place where people are trying to trick each other. Trickery is the natural order of the day. It's because we have become familiar with the language of this trickery. Marketing, influencing, teaching, guiding. We have become so used to these words, we don't see the trickery behind. Try going into the world without using the guard of your knowledge. Just simply say, I will accept whatever that comes my way. You will see, you'll be robbed of everything. You'll be robbed of your wealth, robbed of your beauty, robbed of your intelligence. That is the nature of the world. World is a place where you will be robbed. Society is a big robber. We just have fancy words, fancy names to identify ourselves as part of the society. But see how much you have to guard yourself against this society. You have to acquire additional knowledge. You have to understand what trickery is, and you need to constantly be on the lookout. Otherwise, because you are vulnerable, somebody will take advantage of you. Now, how do they do it? They do it by enticing you with things. How does religion do it? How has Christianity done this for the past 2000 years? It has not helped a single individual awaken to his true nature, but it is still there. Still the preaching is going on. Still new churches are being built. Jesus came and went. His truth died on the cross. And after that, all interpretations have been misinterpretations. But still, the religion is there. How? Because it satisfies a need. It promises you something, and you have fallen for that promise. You have taken that bait. It is promising you a shortcut to transcendence, shortcut to that place called heaven, shortcut to liberation from life and death. And because you yourself have not inquired deeply into the nature of this liberation, where is this place that I want to go to, you have fallen for it. If only you had said, no, I don't want this shortcut, there is no way for someone to trick you. If you take the right path, even if it is a long path, and if you say, this is it, this is my path, this is my way, I'm going to discover it for myself, then how can somebody fool you? It is because you're looking for shortcuts, somebody is providing it to you. One day, Mullah Nasruddin was given a pot of soup by his neighbors. He was grateful and enjoyed the soup very much. The next day, he returned the pot to his neighbors with a smaller pot inside it. Surprised, the neighbors asked what the small pot was for. Nasruddin replied, "The pot you lent me was so pleased with your soup that it has given birth to a little pot." The neighbors, amused and delighted by this explanation, accepted the small pot as a gift. A few weeks later, the neighbors again lent Nasruddin a pot, but this time he did not return it. When they inquired about their pot, Nasruddin looked sad and said, "I have terrible news. The pot you lent me died." The neighbors were outraged. How can a pot die? Nasruddin solemnly replied, "Well, if you can believe that the pot had given birth, why can't you believe that it has died?" It is what you believe in. You cannot be tricked if you're not looking for cheap shortcuts. If you stand firm and say, "Give me the truth," truth and truth alone, in everything, in all experiences of life, inside, outside, in interactions with people, in interactions with the world, ask for truth, the world completely loses power to trick you. Because still you have to give it permission. It is because you're wanting something from the world. It's because you have forgotten that the world has nothing to give you. You are the most important thing. You have something inside you that the world wants. You are the living. You are alive. You are conscious. World is a dead place. It's a world of ideas. It's a world of concepts, theories. It's a world of trickery and manipulation. What can the living want from the dead? But because you don't know your strength, you have forgotten that you are the source of all that you're searching for, you are grasping at the things on the outside. And because you're searching for it on the outside, somebody is there to say, here, take it. Everybody knows that what they're offering you will not add anything to your being. Think about all the innumerable products, innumerable marketing. Look at the whole business of the world. You can wipe all that out clean and say, I don't need any of this, and simply turn inward and find more joy, more happiness, more contentment, a simple way of living, a beautiful way of living. But why aren't you unable to do it? Because you still think your answers are out there somewhere. You are still fallen. And what is your fall? Knowledge, information. How do you rectify this fall? It is to recognize that you are already in the Garden of Eden. It is to recognize that this very moment is paradise.